Let's also address something it's inevitable. It's human nature. I refuse to believe that it didn't brush you somehow. It would be impossible not to. Let's talk about what happens to the ego in the spell of 3 years of going from being, an arena act to, the biggest band in the world. I mean, at that time, and
Hmm.
one of the biggest bands forever. I mean, where do you feel that you were closest to going off the deep end ego wise during that tour? How did you catch yourself? Was it your dad and your brother and other family members like stepping in and saying, "Hey, come on, guy, this is not who you are." How did that work out? How did it resolve? If there was anything to resolve, but again, I assume there had to have been.
All of us experienced some kind of swelly head at different levels for different amounts of time through this 3 year span. It, like you said, inevitable and impossible for it not to happen. You're only flesh and bone. And so I remember me personally, um, when I went shopping with Kirk in Paris, and he took me to Agnesby, and he took me to a couple other nice stores. And I threw down a lot of money for some nice clothes and shoes and stuff. And I'd never done that before. And man, I thought I was the shit. You know, I dressing out in them clothes, man. We were out on tour and stuff, and after the show, man, I'd be all dressed up like that, and that was, there's a lot of girls in and stuff, and I would just felt so fucking mac in my Paris attire, bro. And so that then, if, to me, the farm fucking kid, man, being able to spend that kind of money on those kind of clothes, I never ever would have, not even understand they existed, but once they did, I would not have fathomed that I would be able to do something like that. So I did get caught in a moment. Um, I think that I've been really frugal with my earnings, and so that's why I still have them. Um, but I did have a couple of moments there. But that was the time, whatever year pocket that was, when we went to Paris and Brussels and stuff right in a row right there. That was just dropping all this money for wine and fancy shit, and real fucking hoity-toity shit. And I think it lasted for about, I'd say, 5 to 6 months for myself. That it was just that, walking on air everywhere that you went, dude. Each, the 55 countries you played or whatever the hell happened. Everybody, they're waiting for you when you fucking get there, dude, with the fucking carpet and the bottles and the girls. And what are you supposed to do?
What
So
and
I,
what got? How did you catch yourself? That's equally as interesting, I think.
I think when I came back home on one break, and to be with my girl again, and I just realized, like, my dog, I just realized that that's not who I am. It just is not who I am. I pretended and thought I was going to get this fancy car and all this shit. I'm like, dude, that you'd rather have a 65 Mopar, 68 Mopar than you would that fucking Lamborghini bullshit anyway. Right. But that's kind of where I was getting to, because those guys were driving Porsches and fancy cars and stuff. And I'm like, man, I can afford that too. But I still just have my truck. And I still do just have my truck. So.
I mean, that's a fortunate moment of clarity to be able to achieve, because it's not
Right.
always achievable.
Right. And we have to give credit to people that don't really realize they even did it. The people that were around us in that time, when that, like, a lot of crazy cocaine and all that shit, and saw very clearly what I did not want to be.
Given what happened with James, and the accident, did you draw upon your natural? I mean, you were like, I mean, you're like the second in command on stage at that point. I mean, you're definitely, you're leading a few things. You're carrying it, in spots physically. I mean, was it something that you were like, okay, I got to step up tenfold now, and I got to really do extra, because my man is, he's going to be hurt in here. He's in pain. He can't, he's not whole. Did it give you maybe something to focus on other than the dramas that were unfolding due to timekeeping and partying and whatever else with, on that tour? Was it a chance for you to maybe reconnect on something that could pull you through what appears to have been one of the tougher tours for you to have been on?
Yeah. And now that I think about that and kind of review it a little bit, that accident brought us together to a place that I don't think could have ever happened unless something like that, an incident like that. James was fucking heroic, dude. Straight up heroic. You know how much just one little scratch or one little burn on the teapot hurts? It was this whole fucking, I mean, come on. So he comes in. I was like 3 days later or 5 days later. You know, Tony Smith comes back. I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to go back a little bit because this is it's such, it really is a moment that's somehow saved and refueled our band. We went back into our own bubble world, onto our own microcosm. And because we were back in our place to protect our boy, try to be whole again. That's all that mattered. That's not the thing. Is he going to be okay? It was only, I don't know, the first gig or third gig there or something. Just, it was a new place. We were 4 floors down sub basement, you know, ride the golf cart, go, you know, all the way around, all that shit, all the way fucking down there, man. And we were distraught, and Kirk and I were tripping. I mean, everybody, Lars wasn't even, he was in the dressing room, just, you know, towel over his head and whoa. And Kirk and I were trying to still be upright. And we're just wondering. And as we go back in the dressing room, it's 4 hours since the incident. Tony Smith has been at the hospital. It's a French-speaking hospital. And so Tony says, you need to put this guy in the furthest back room that you got of this place, because in about half an hour, there's going to be 5,000 people on the lawn here, you know? So he puts him way in the back, and they got some translators, and all this shit starts going on. So Tony comes back 4 hours. He's going to be fine. He's going to be okay. He's tough as fuck. Like, yeah, he goes, the only thing he wanted to know was when we're playing again. And we're like, that's what we're asking. Yeah, you know, like, we didn't know if we're ever going to get to play again with him. And the first thing came back from him, when are we playing again? And yes, he was on morphine and whatever the fuck else, yeah. But he was still him, you know? And so 5 days later, we're at that, where's in Denver or something like that, where we rented that arena. There's some damn thing to hold the auditions. And he comes in all wrapped up, you know, with all his bandages and salve and shit. And you see those videos from that when he's got all his shit on, when we're in that back room with John Marshall and stuff. And he's just in it. Songs he sang 500 times, but he doesn't have to play guitar right now. And it was incredible, dude. So that's what I remember, is his gumption, his toughness, that he insisted that we get back to the people right fucking now. And look back in the records, and it could not have been 10 days before we were back out making up shows.
I mean, it's in a sense, as you have to really, and as this band had already had a sobering education in doing, you claim victory from adversity. You turn adversity into strength, and so you're saying that really this was maybe a catalytic point to be able to continue touring and for this record, and to feel the unification was back, and so on and so forth.
We regrouped behind him, in support of him, through brotherly love, absolute brotherly love. You know, it was more important that he was well than anything else, but he already came out going, let's fucking go. So we didn't have to, it was like he was already there. There was no mopey, no wait for me, oh poor fucking me, or anything. Zero, man. You know, so that because of that, because our leader showed that kind of fire, we were more than happy to get behind him like never before. And like your initial question, I knew I was going to have to step up and do a couple more things. I knew he'd have to have a few more breaks. We'd have to do that. Yeah, we all knew that, and we stepped right into it. You know, I remember regrouping with strength that we didn't have before. There's almost an extra added intrigue. You already wanted to see the band in person and have them do their songs for you super loud and shit. But the thing about that got around, you know, say like wildfire, but it got around really, you know, like that James is coming back, but he's not going to be playing guitar this time. And he's up there still doing it. It is a different Metallica to be experienced. And there was an added little thing to that, man. And I think we all got off on it a bit. And it was really, and when he finally was able to come back on guitar, dude, that was some fucking shit. That was cool, man. It was cool to have that back because nobody could play like that. John's great, Kirk's great, you know, all that, but there ain't nobody like that with that down picking thing and that. Yeah.
We'll go to 1993. I'm going to guess, and again, I'm not entirely sure of the date signatures, but I would suspect that maybe around, you know, Christmas 92, January 93, you're getting the final map as to what's going to be happening. And someone somewhere along the line has put a marker down and said, Werchter and July 4th is going to be the last show. We're not going to do any more. There won't be any add-ons. There's not going to be any extras. And Tahoot was the day before, and Werchter was the final.
Yeah.
Twofold question. Describe your emotions when you realized that there was a real end in sight to this tour, and then describe your emotions on the actual specific last day of that tour.
I was fascinated at the diversity of the show we were involved with. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing. Bob Mould, Sugar played first, and then somebody, and then Lenny, and then Neil Young. And he comes on with Booker T and the MGs. And the stage, I remember the stage from the edge of the PA there to the edge of the PA there, 250 feet. Okay, so just a little short of a football field, American football. And I would make sure that I did that 20 times minimum, right? So how many ever miles that is, right? So that and Neil and those guys come on, and they're boys, and they set up their, their Persian rugs in about a 30 square foot area, 20, I mean, fuck like this. A drum set, Montgomery Ward amplifiers, B3 organ, microphone there on the stage, like that much on that side, that much on that side. And they still kicked our ass. You know, it was amazing. I'm like, how are we going to follow that? You know, because it was so authentic. Oh my God, you know? But I remember that the excitement of the diversity of the show, being able to watch Lenny from the side. I fucking loved it because he's still the dreads. And it's kind of like that old Bob Marley video, that like surreal Panavision, what's it called? Color, I'm talking Polaroid, whatever that is, that really surreal looking shit when the dreadlocks go against the sky and all that, man. Amazing show. And then Neil was just beautiful. And we're Northern California boys together, bringing to the people in the middle of fucking Belgium. That was prideful shit right there. NorCal in the house. So that was a big deal. Then the last show, so they're having a big ass party, right? And I think it was Basel. Was it in Basel? Or right close to where the party they had, the last day party, the last of the tour party, the last end of tour party. It's right there somewhere. So anyway, my dad came out and my sister came out, and they were there for the end of the tour party. I remember a great deal of relief, happiness, and wonderment. And it was kind of, I don't think I'd experienced the PTD, post-tour depression phases until that time. So I didn't experience Out with Justice, like where our conversation started. I didn't realize Justice had stopped. The world's still going like that. So this one, I definitely realized when it stopped, because it was such a locomotive for such, that's a marking time. When you're only 28, and that took 3 years of your 28, yeah, it's a marker. So when I finally did get home, and everybody had their own things to deal with when they got home, because we were gone from home for so long. And I do remember wondering, like, what am I going to do now for a while, right? But at that time, in between on some of those spots, the whole time I was on the tour, we've been building the chop house. So when I got done, when I got home, the chop house was complete. So I'd only ever seen it in building stages. So when I got there, the desk was in, the snakes were through the floor, the mics were in place. So, that kind of right there was my path. And but it still, I still was affected by not having my adrenaline shot 5 days days a week, but I got it in different places. It just wasn't the same intensity of interaction with that much electricity coming at you from that many people. That's really what you get removed from you of the addiction of the adrenaline, is the electricity from the people being directed favorably in your direction. So that's really what physically you feel that gone.
But you were able to, at some point after you'd had a decompression, which I presume it's the same as coming off the space station, right? You have to go through a decompression.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's got to be similar.
That's great.
It's like a period of time. You have to reacclimatize. You can't go straight in there. But your decompression, once that was done, because you had the chop house, you were kind of able to find an outlet and keep flowing more, right? So that would be.
Yeah, that was my saving grace. The chop house, always has been since that time, has been my savior. No doubt about that.
Great. Yep. So, well, the last thing I'm going to ask you is a very simple question on the face of it, but it's a bit of a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Looking back on the entire Black Album era now, from the first moments at One on One to the last moments at the after tour party, post Werchter, so on and so forth. Describe your feelings in one sentence. Look, you can have two if you want. And if you have three, I'm probably not going to say anything, but kind of haiku it if you can.
Victorious.
That's it. You've got brilliant. You've actually managed to usurp the intention of the one sentence to one word. Brilliant. I love it. Victorious. Great.
Sure, in every sense. Conquering, all the things that go along with victorious.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to revisit and to go wandering down some of these corridors and spaces.
Awesome. It feels good, man. It feels good to talk about. It feels good when there's righteousness in it, man. It just feels good.
Indeed. And thank you very much indeed.